I'm gonna blow this place to hell and gone. If you want to make it out alive, you better start running.
What? You can't. But I'll never. Ah!
Alright, so the Mass Effect Legendary Edition, I finally beat all 3 games, put over 100 hours into them, and, you know, honestly, I didn't even think I was gonna play the Legendary Edition. I had so many other games on my radar this year, Resident Evil Village being probably one of my favorite. You know, I've beat these games in the past, the Mass Effect games, and I never really appreciated them the way I did this time around, and I think, you know, I'm a different person, maybe I'm older, or whatever it is, a different time in my life. And I think this game serves as a perfect example of, you know, sometimes you don't appreciate something like a game back in the day, and then you replay it, and then obviously, you know, it's more polished, and the 60 frames per second, the performance, you know, all that stuff. It's a cleaner game, right? So obviously that helps. It's the fact that, you know, I really took my time this time around playing these games, and I think I walked away with a much more satisfying experience that I didn't really have the first time around. The first time around, I just blew through them. You know, I think Mass Effect 1 is a great game. You know, it's a great RPG. It's a classic. Mass Effect 2 came around, and it really did a great job at a sequel, you know, and just elevating everything and making what Mass Effect 1 was just even better. And then here comes Mass Effect 3, which I think is very underrated, at least for me this time around playing the Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Man, the combat, like, I don't remember the combat being this much fun. Again, like, I just kind of blew through these games in the past. I didn't really care too much about the lore. You know, I would like listen to some dialogue, but I didn't exhaust all the options. I didn't invest myself and immerse myself the way I did this time around. Yeah, Mass Effect 2 is the fan favorite of the series, and I see why. I think the story and the characters and kind of just the decision making and everything is very, very important, and the way they do it is just really cool. But I really like Mass Effect 3. Like, I can't believe how much I enjoyed Mass Effect 3, and I think the highlight of Mass Effect 3 really is the combat. With Mass Effect 2, it's really more of the story and the characters, and obviously that suicide mission at the very end, which is really badass. I really love these games. I'm not gonna lie, they're long, right? I don't think these games are for everyone. I'm gonna start off by saying that at least. This is an RPG experience first, so if you're thinking about like action-paced combat and this is not the game, you're gonna be spending a lot of time talking to people and developing relationships, choosing dialogue options and making reputation and decisions. There's so much politics in this game. There's so much lore in this game if you want to go out there and go after it. There's a codex in this game that is pretty damn awesome. I need to mention the fact that you can play Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 in this Legendary Edition without having to wait for, alright, like you beat Mass Effect 1, you gotta wait for the second one to release. Obviously that's how it was back in the day, right? You don't have to do that now. You can just jump into the second game. And what's awesome is that the character that you made from Mass Effect 1 will carry over to 2 and 3 with the decisions that you've made. So that is really awesome. You just don't see that type of stuff really nowadays. You know, we have RPGs, but this is very unique in that sense. And I really love that. You know, back in the day when I played them, I didn't import my character. I just kind of made a new character. But this time around, you know, when you import your character, the game remembers and recognizes, you know, some of the decisions that you made, some of the very big decisions that impacted the game in many ways, and that carries over, your character carries over, and that's really, really cool. Now, with all that being said, and I'm gonna get, you know, more into, you know, the graphics and the combat and everything, but I have to mention the level of jank and cheesiness and awkwardness and dorkiness that this game is very well known for, especially, you know, making your own character. I think there's just something weird about the eyes. Like my character, he's got these weird, you know, he looks goofy sometimes, but he looks kind of like creepy with his eyes. I don't know what they were doing with that, but I don't remember that in the first game. Actually, I played the default character, so I didn't create a character back in the day. So I created a character now. There's a lot of jank. There's a lot of awkwardness, and I think that just comes with the territory here. That just comes with the RPG. There's going to be moments where you're going to be like, what was that? That was so awkward and so cheesy, and then the next moment you're like, that was pretty badass. So there's so many, you know, of these emotions and feelings that are just mixed, and they're all over the place with these games. There's definitely times of frustration. There's definitely some times of like, man, the game is not going the way you want it to go. But with all that said, I still recommend this game. I still love these games because it goes back to the RPG. It goes back to the world of Mass Effect and how big it is, and just the lore and the characters and the different alien races and factions and all these things. I love this game so much. I love the fact that they put you in the position of a commander. You're flying a Normandy ship. You're not a character that is, you know, low on the totem pole or like a low enlisted soldier. You're a commander, man, and you're saving the galaxy, and everybody knows you. And I really love that empowerment of this game. And obviously, as you play, you know, the first one and go into the second one and get into the third, like, you know, you're gonna see this reputation that you have across the galaxy, across the planets, where people know who you are and what you've done, and obviously some of the decisions that you've made along the way carry over, and people will remember that. So there's so many of these little details in this game, it being an RPG, that I think really capture the soul and the essence of what makes this franchise, these games, so amazing, so popular, and so beloved. I think some of my favorite moments in these games are the characters that you meet along the way and the relationships that you have with these characters. Obviously, you can romance depending on the character, which is kind of cool. You can get closer with the character depending on who it is. But just the kind of the diversity and everything when it comes to the characters that you have, that you recruit, I really like it, man. Like, there's different alien races and stuff like that. There's the humans, and, you know, there's so many different things that is going on because it's a huge galaxy. And, you know, the Alliance, who are the humans, are pretty much not high in the spectrum of just like civilizations. Like, we're kind of at the bottom, and we're trying to prove ourselves. And you play as a Spectre, or you become one in the first game, and that's kind of a big deal because you're representing now the humans when it comes to the Citadel, when it comes to the politics. You're going to meet some amazing characters along the way, and some of these characters are going to transfer over to the next game or the third game, or you might see them later on, and that's very important that you do play these games from the beginning. Now, I talked about how this game is not really like an action-paced or oriented game. It definitely has that feeling when you do get into combat, but it is an RPG through and through. You're going to be spending time in the ability wheel where the game pauses and you're going to select abilities. You could either have it where your squad mates kind of use their own abilities, or you can even dial it down more of an RPG where you are in charge of your teammates' abilities. So that's kind of cool. So you can kind of play it more casual where they do their own thing, or you can really command them and you take charge. I also love the fact that you can play this game as like a kind of good character or bad. It's funny because I've never actually played an evil character. Even back then, I chose to be good, which is Paragon. Bad is Renegade in this game. So I never... And it's funny because I told myself, like, I'm going to play this game completely different this time around. I'm going to be bad. And I just can't do it, man. I might the next time I play it for sure, for, just different dialogue options and just kind of going around being an asshole. And it's going to be interesting to see where, you know, decisions kind of, if they change, if they're reflected on how you are. I do love that they added this feature in the game, and it just kind of adds to kind of like another layer to the RPG experience and when you're interacting with people, because you're going to do that a lot. Some of my favorite moments in this game are honestly not the combat. It's really the relationships that I have. It's the moments where you're talking to characters that you've built relationships with, and you're making difficult decisions, and you're just kind of getting into the story and the characters, and you're really talking to people and you're questioning them, and depending on if you're good or bad, you have even more options to persuade them and everything. So this is pretty much it. Like, that's where this game really shines, is in the character dialogue, and I think this is where BioWare nailed it. They nailed it with KOTOR, you know, Knights of the Old Republic, and this is where they kind of lost that magic when they went to Andromeda. This is where the games shine. It's, you know, it's not the combat, it's not like the graphics or the jankiness of it. It's the story, it's the way they put your character in it, and the interactions that you have, and the dialogue, and the choices that you make. These are the moments that really make this game what they are. Some of the character models in this game are absolutely insane, especially once they go further into the series. Like, the character models look cooler going into Mass Effect 2, and then in 3, like, I'm not gonna dive too deep in, but there's a robot. Her character model is just amazing. Obviously it's sexy, it looks awesome, but just the way it looks is really cool, and you can tell where BioWare kind of ramped up the production and the quality. Even the armor that you wear, the N7 armor that Commander Shepard wears in Mass Effect 3, is just so badass looking. Speaking of like cool factor in this game, you have a ship, and it's massive, and it's called the Normandy, and you pretty much have it from 1 to 3. Again, I'm not going to spoil things, but certain things do happen. But you have the Normandy, and it changes a little bit as you play each game. But this is one of the coolest things about this game, is it serves as the hub, and this is where you kind of go and hang out with your characters and talk to them and build relationships, and you have your own room. There's different levels, and then there's a command station style thing where you pretty much choose the planets that you want to travel to, and I just love the Normandy. As someone who loves the space, science, sci-fi kind of world in games, movies, books, like, this is where Mass Effect nails it. It nails that sci-fi universe and world, and like, you're going from planet to planet in your Normandy with your characters that you keep recruiting, and that's just one of the things that just make this game so awesome and so cool. Like I said earlier, you are a commander and people respect you. Some people salute you if they're human. People come up to you and they know who you are and they know what you've done, and I think just the way they kind of did that is really cool. Now, I'm one of those people that really loves a good soundtrack. If a game has really good music, I think it can really kind of bump up the value, at least for me, and Mass Effect is no different. I mean, just from starting the game, booting up the menu, this just sounds amazing. There's moments in this game where you're, you know, maybe in a romantic relationship cutscene kind of thing, and the music is really cool and it kind of fits, or you know, you're in combat or whatever it is. There's some really cool music, especially when you're in the menu where you're kind of choosing what planet to go to, especially in Mass Effect 2. I love that. It has a really kind of like recognizable that eventually fall in love with. Alright, so time to wrap it up. I talked about the visuals, the combat, the story, the dialogue, the characters, the world, everything. This game is very special to me. I think it's grown on me, and like I said in the beginning, I did not appreciate these games for what they are. I'm so glad that I took the time this year to sit down and play them all. And like I said, they are pretty lengthy, about 30 to 40 hours per game. I did reach the 100-hour mark. Again, this is an experience that I really think most people would really enjoy. But it takes patience, like I said before. It takes a lot of patience because it's a little different than most games. And of course, it being an RPG, meaning that, you know, it's a role-playing game, you gotta approach it differently. This is not an action game, and you're not gonna finish this pretty quick. I will go as far as to say that, listen, if you don't have the time for these games, don't play them. Don't play them right now. Give them the time when you have the time. Definitely is worth it if you set time out for these games, because they're long, for you to maximize your experience with it. But that wraps up the video, guys. I really appreciate your time if you made it this far in the video. These videos take time to make, so I really appreciate the fact that you're even here. If you like this video, if you made it this far, consider subscribing to the channel, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys next time.
Hey, I think he went in here.
We'll go get him.
You go.
Get your ass in there, and Nathana's not paying you to stand around.
Fine. But
Hostile forces have engaged.